Once upon a time there was an ALM project. Users loved it. They created a lot of releases, cycle requirements, tests with different parameters and configurations. On a sacred design meeting, the best minds brainstormed together and finally came up with the magnificent artifact, the Excel file of backlog item ideas. But is there a way to move that ideas to ALM? The good news is there is an Excel add-in feature that allows you to import Excel content to the project. Simply log in to desired project using your credentials. Choose entity type that you are going to import. The last step you need to do is field mapping. Specify what Excel column represents appropriate fields in ALM. Simple as that. Here are imported requirements. Good Robert's story. There was good functional architect, Robert. He created 8 backlog items. He was working on them a very long time. But somebody deleted few backlog items. Robert was very upset when he found out. He asked project administrator for help. Luckily for Robert, project admin loved to do the backups. That's where libraries are useful. It was easy to track what requirements were deleted by comparing libraries' baseline content to current entities, and import them back. After a successful import, administrator copied imported requirements back to their original destination. Old Frank's story. Old Frank liked to do things in an old-fashioned way. He needed to assign requirements to the cycles, so he opened each requirement one by one, and specified the appropriate cycle. This would take ages. That's when helpful Jack came by. He showed Frank the Assign to Cycle feature. Simply right-click on the root requirement and choose Assign to Cycle option. Apply that change to all child requirements. Frank could finish his monthly work in a single day. An ordinary graph story. There was a requirement coverage graph. The graph told QA manager that requirement coverage is absent. That meant that QA engineers have to create new tests to cover the requirements. Nobody liked to do an extra work. So QA engineers used convert to test feature to keep exact same structure in test plan folder hierarchy as it was in the requirements tree. To tell the truth, nobody liked to work at all, so it was unacceptable to create repeated test steps. Thankfully ALM has call to test feature. It allows you to use same test steps from a particular test in any other tests you prefer. Lazy Mike's story. Lazy Mike didn't like to run the tests. It was long and boring process. So he just changed a test instant status to do a fast run. His boss didn't like this approach. He easily figured out that tests weren't actually executed just by looking at run's name and duration in test run's grid. Oops. The next day Lazy Mike was smarter. He ran the tests, but decided to pass all steps at once to make run process faster. Unfortunately for him, ALM provides tools to figure out that as well. You just need to build a business view graph that would use queries to runs and tests tables, display run durations on a graph, and that is it. Rainbow Lacy story. Lacy liked to use a colorful text formatting. She said it helped to draw testers' attention to important details. Her boss didn't like the idea though. He changed the text color. When Lacy found out that text formatting has been changed, she didn't get upset. She just used ALM versioning feature and rolled back the changes by moving to previous checked-in test version. The last days of Lazy M. Besides running tests, Lazy Mike didn't like to verify defects as well. He decided to use update selected feature, and to close all the defects he had to verify. That was the last thing he did. In Application Lifecycle Management 11.5 there is new feature, Business Views. You can easily build queries that include audit history tables. Building a graph on top of that business view would allow you to see who did changes to the entity, and when the changes were done.